Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this legislation, not just as a legislator, but as a social worker. As someone who has sat across from young people at their worst moments, and I can still see their capacity for change. So this bill asks a difficult question. What do we believe about human beings? Are we our worst act, or do we recognize the possibility of growth, accountability, and transformation? I want to be clear, as people before me have said, this bill does not erase accountability, and it does not undo harm. It does not guarantee release. It allows individuals convicted of crimes who have served 60% of their sentence to be considered for parole. That is considered, not released, considered. And I think that distinction really matters because we are really talking about brain development and we're talking about science. We know unequivocally that the human brain is not fully developed until around 25, 26. And as a social worker and a trauma therapist, this is something that I know very well. The regions responsible for impulse control, risk assessment, emotional regulation, those are still under construction. And I know many of us can remember back when we were that age having some issues with impulse control and emotional regulation. So this is not speculation. This is established neuroscience. So when a young person, someone 18, 19, 20, even 24, commits a terrible act, we must hold them accountable, but we must also understand that they are not yet who they're going to become. And this is not an excuse, this is reality. And if we ignore that reality, we are not being tough on crime, we are being willfully blind to the truth. And as a social worker, I've seen individuals who've committed serious offenses as young adults grow into people who take full responsibility, who feel deep remorse, who spend years, decades working to better themselves. And I want to talk a little bit about my personal experience. So I heard my colleague talk about gang violence that occurred in Hartford. And I really want to validate what she was speaking of because that was my experience. I can remember my family hearing gunshots on a regular basis and knowing to drop to the floor because that's what we needed to do to be safe. And I grew up right off Park Street at a time where gang violence was something that we just lived with every single day. And I still believe in transformation, and I still believe in science. I lost many people. I lost many people to death. And I lost many people to prison. And a lot of people don't know this, but I was born and raised in Hartford, moved to Middletown 20 years ago because of gun violence that killed a very close family member. And I want to say that that experience was hard. This conversation that we're having right now about this bill, I had to sit down and have this conversation with my family. And they weren't happy about this bill. They were sad because we are victims and it did impact us. However, this bill just gives an opportunity to go in front of the parole board. This is not saying that that person is getting released. There is so much that has to happen for them to be released. And also, I was able to have a conversation with them about brain science, about redemption, as Rep. McGee talked about, and about how people deserved the opportunity to change. And we, in this legislature, I think it's our job to give them that opportunity, to give people another chance, because if we don't, what does that say about us? We talk about our values, and one of them is seeing the humanity in people, and I think that this bill sees the humanity in people. It says that we do not believe that that act that you committed is who you are for the rest of your life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Belton.